powered by Riverside.
Hey, how are we doing? It's your boy, it's the Birdman. Do it with me one time. That's right, it's the Birdman show. And I know you're hearing in the background, you're hearing that Nickelback burn it to the ground. And I'll be honest with you, after looking at today's episode and what we're going to be talking about, I kind of feel that way. That everything needs to be burned to the ground. But it is what it is. We'll get into that. You already know I'm not doing this alone. I'm here with my boy Ace. I'm here with my boy Big Sam. Gentlemen, how the heck are we doing? Start with you, Ace.
It's going to be an interesting show. I'll give you that. I did some research. I actually pulled a Sam this week, jotted some stuff down. He took notes last week, so I was like, well, I guess I can't let the ogre outdo me, so I figured I'd go ahead and jot some stuff.
Damn,
jot
Shrek.
some stuff down to Shrek. But this is definitely going to be an interesting topic today.
Yes, it definitely is. Big Sam, how we doing today, baby?
I was doing good until I got insulted by Fred Flintstone here. Old ass.
Well, I mean, I am barefoot right now, so it fits.
Doing this show with Fred and Barney.
Good.
God dang, man.
I know you ain't calling me Barney, fool.
I'll do it.
Wait. Is it Barney Rubble or Barney the dinosaur?
Barney Rubble.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was sticking with the Flintstone theme, yeah. No. Hey, he was kind of a pimp, I ain't gonna lie.
Anyway.
Right. I'm doing good though. Doing good. Yeah, this is gonna be an interesting episode, man. I literally had never even heard of this dude until you brought him up, which I feel like is kind of a little bit of a running theme now with like this one and when we talked about Yunko being that they're like international.
Yeah.
Because like I said, when we did Yunko, like I had heard about it, but I didn't really know about it, So it kind of feels like it's a little bit of a running thing with like these kind of international murderers and serial killers and whatnot that we just don't really kind of hear about them here in the States, I feel like. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
But and going along what you just said, I mean, that kind of, no, you really don't want to hear about this stuff, but it's kind of like, why wouldn't you hear about something like that? Where something like that happened. I mean, they're quick to play, whatever else on the news about something going on. Why wouldn't you want the world to know, okay, this is what happened over here, blah, 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 blah. But that's just one of those things, once again, media narrating, or giving out information or misinformation and stuff like that. And in this case, not a lot of information at the start. There's, of course, there's been a lot of information since all this happened. But, not from the start. But hey, before we get started, like always, I want to tell everybody that the Birdman Show is powered by Riverside.fm. Riverside.fm is the easiest way and only way to do a podcast. Well, okay, not the only way to do a podcast, but the only way I will ever do a podcast again. Riverside has amazing editing tools and an unmatched community of experts that will help you take your podcast to the next level. So if you want to know more about Riverside, check out the link in the Tim Birdman Simpson Facebook profile. and come take a flight with your boy, the Birdman, and Riverside. And we'll see you in the clouds. All right, gentlemen. Yeah. This episode. Okay. So for those who don't know, we're going to be talking about the Beast of Colombia. Yeah, and this one, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tell a few highlights, and then we're gonna get into the story. Like this one, like Big Sam had alluded to, was not one that was like really on my radar. And it just kind of when I heard the show, because there's a show I listen to quite a bit, and I know Ace has listened to it too. Was Rotten Mango, and you know I love how they do their podcast. It's her and her fiance. Actually, they might be married now. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's still, it doesn't matter. Anyways, I love listening to their podcast, and this one, like when I first heard it, I was like, wait, what? Because in this story here, in this case, it's almost like when I was listening to it, and Ace, I know you listened to that same episode as I did. When I was listening to it, I almost was like, in parts of it, I was like, yo, this first of all, this can't be real. Somebody's writing a script for a movie. Because it almost like it felt like the whole story was just a screenwrite for a movie. Like I said, some of the things we're going to talk about in this is now. First of all, I definitely want to give a disclaimer for triggers. There's going to be some. I don't like to really say it, so we'll say SA. I'll say it this one time. So that way everybody understands where we're at when we talk about SA, unfortunate sexual assault. I'm not going to be one that's going to be saying that like all willy nilly during the show. So if you hear SA, that's what it means. Okay, so that way we're not just throwing it out there, because there's going to be unfortunately there's going to be some parts with this, and there might be some other triggers that are going to go along with this. So viewer and listener discretion advised. This case with this guy, like I said, we call the Beast of Colombia, is Luis Alfredo Garavito. Isn't that how you pronounce the last name? Garavito. I think it's Garavito. But anyways, he was a Colombian serial killer. He was a serial killer.
It's Garavito. Garavito is the nickname that he got whenever he was in school.
So it's Vito, not and Bato. See, I knew I was getting those two confused. So Garavito.
Yeah.
Because they can be, depending on who it is, they can be pronounced either way. The correct way for his last name was Bato. Vito was actually a nickname we'll get into later, that he was given when he was in school. But yeah, he was a serial killer, sex offender, pedophile, a necrophilia. He was in necrophilia. He said that he sold his soul, and then had to keep the devil happy, and needed to do it by making sacrifices with dead bodies and his Ouija board. That already threw me off there. Now, there are going to be some numbers thrown out in this case that we're talking about, and they vary. Because number one, you got to think about sources they come from. So unfortunately, when you talk about the bodies that were found or discovered, or he even confessed to, those numbers vary. You might hear a number between 180 and 400. We'll do our best to decipher through the information that we're giving out to everybody. And like I said, if anything, always go look it up. Do your own research, and we'll talk about it. But yeah, he brutally assaulted, tortured, and dismembered a lot of his victims. Okay, gentlemen, we got a lot to unpack here. Okay, Ace, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to kind of walk us through some of his early childhood background. I know it's going to be a little, yeah.
How much research you think I did?
Oh, I thought you did a lot more than
his
I
early
did.
childhood background. Luis Garavito was a simple kid. He was the oldest of 8, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And his dad, this is one of those cases where bad behavior can be learned. When he was, God, I want to say he was 10. No, he was 8. When he was 8 years old was whenever he first got SA'd. His dad was a drunk with a temper. He would come home, he would go in, he would, his way of saying excuse me was get the fuck out of my way. His way of discipline was just ripping his belt off. Lewis would go to school with bruises all over his body, or all over his ass, from getting in the way of his dad abusing his mom, and his dad would take it out on him.
Hey, Ace, I don't mean to cut you off.
By
but
the time,
yeah, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I just want to make sure we preference this. Everything we're going to talk about, this really only happened in now. The main part of this happened in a 7-year span. So from 1992 to 1999 was when they're saying that he preyed upon and brutalized many of his victims. Now, in his 20s, I guess when I think it was about in his 20s is when he kind of started. Well, actually, no, I take it back. It was when he was 15 when he kind of started, because it actually kind of started on a very smaller scale with his siblings. But he graduated up, and then he moved on to other prey. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to make sure we got that out.
No, you're good. I didn't look into the dates and everything on when everything was cataloged and when they say that everything happened. What I heard was that by 23 years old, he'd been doing it for 12 years. So that would mean that he would have started abusing kids whenever he was 11. But like I said, I didn't go into depth as far as looking up a timeline on when everything actually happened. I'm just going off of hearsay,
Right?
Somebody else's information. But by the age of 10, he had already been SA'd and physically abused for 2 years by a family friend.
Mm-hmm.
They had moved to a different city, got away from the family friend, and they developed a new family friend that turned out to be a priest. But by this time, he'd already been traumatized. So everything that follows from here is a result of what his father started. Because his father, at 10 years old, at 8 years old, his father decided that he wanted to bathe him one day.
Yeah.
And it happened a second time, but it was the family friend the second time. And things progressed from there to the family friend biting him, pouring hot wax from a candle on him, burning him. And during this time, he was pleasuring himself while he was doing this. So by him doing that, he's showing a pattern of what is appropriate in life, and Lewis picks up on this. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay, what happened, Sam?
I don't know. Maybe he had to go to the restroom or something. I don't know. But no, yeah.
Okay.
Now, like you were talking about with his dad.
I'm still here, by the way.
And that's what's crazy about it is, yeah, this had been going on for at least 2 years. It was weird the first thing, the first part with his dad bathing him, because like you said, he was old enough that he could bathe himself. He didn't need to take a bath with his father or anybody else. And it was crazy because, like it said in one of the case reports, that his father bathed like every inch of him. So, when I first was reading this, I was like, oh my God, no, not his dad. But then it turned out it wasn't his dad. And it ended up being, like you said, a family friend. And like one of the parts they said the family friend used to bite him. He used to bite him in a lot of his sensitive areas. And that's what, that really got me, and he was doing that while he was basically pleasuring himself. It's like, why are these sick people walking around on Earth? I don't care what country where they are. That's just why. Like, why? And to me, it's like, when and where do you even come up to the conclusion that you were into that? That's what really bothers me when it comes to stuff like that. But it is what it is. Go ahead and continue.
After they had moved, this was the first time that he actually had experimented with controlling someone. That's the thing that he wanted whenever he looked at these adults. His dad, the family friend, the priest, whenever they moved and started going to church, they all had power. And his dad made him feel powerless. So by that aspect, he wanted that back. He wanted to regain the power. So one day he lines up all of his siblings. Hello, Brittany. He lines up all of his siblings and tells them to disrobe. And he walks by and he just caresses each one of them. Just touches each one of them. Brothers, sisters, it didn't matter. And for the latecomers that can't show up on time, the topic tonight is the Beast of Colombia. And actually, he was later renamed the Monster of Genova.
Yeah.
So, there you go, Brittany. Show up to class on time next time. What?
Yeah. Now, a lot of things we're going to cover in this story, and we're talking about some of the stuff earlier in his childhood. A lot of stuff we're going to cover when it comes to a lot of this. Like I said, now when all this stuff was going on, and like Brian, Ace was talking about, with this, bringing up, he was definitely right. He wanted that power back. He definitely wanted that power back, because he'd been getting bullied. And one of the things that they talked about was when he used to get abused by whether it was, by the family member or the priest, they took the saying, I know everybody's heard the saying, two birds with one stone. He literally took it one step further. He literally went out, and I don't know how he did it, but he caught two birds and literally bashed them in with a stone. He even later talked about he just completely destroyed these birds. And I mean, I can only imagine, the rage that he had built up. The fact, because his mother was getting beaten by his father, his siblings were getting beaten by his father, he was getting beaten by his father, even to the point where his father used to take him out back, tie him up to a tree, and I don't know how he did it. I don't even want. I'm trying not to imagine it, but he used to beat him with a machete. Yeah, he used to beat him with a machete. So I can only imagine that maybe he laid it flat and was hitting him with it. But I mean, he had cuts and stuff, all over his body. But yeah, it's just, I mean, what the stuff this kid and his family endured because of his father being an abusive drunk, it's just unexcusable. And I don't. Anyways, it is what it is. Big Sam, if you're there, what are some of your thoughts going on with this so far?
I don't know. Can you guys hear me? No. Okay.
Okay. So.
Yeah, I think he's having the same issue that he was having. He's going to jump out and come back in.
Yeah. Okay. So
we'll go ahead and wait for him to come back in. That way.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. It's the Birdman show.
Yeah.
I'll let the Birdman decide what we're going to do.
I tell you what, for those who are listening and watching, if you want to help the Birdman show get aware of this problem, how about you donate to Patreon?
If you want to help the Birdman show to eliminate this issue, donate money so they can upgrade their damn internet.
There he is.
Oh, okay. Sam, if you can hear
Welcome
me,
back, Sam.
Sam, if you can hear me, I just got a message from Riverside, and it's saying that you have Riverside open in other tabs. So if you do,
I just closed the other one.
Okay.
Yeah, I just closed
so hopefully that'll.
I guess it was just the same thing that happened to you earlier.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Okay. Anyways, so you caught all that earlier, right?
Yeah, I could hear you guys fine. Like I wasn't having any issues with anything like that.
Okay.
So
okay. All right. So that being said, how are you feeling?
Yeah, my thoughts. I mean, dude, he it's kind of like Ace alluded to a little bit. Kind of like learned behavior. The kind of nature versus nurture type argument that comes with a lot of like serial killers and whatnot. He had a pretty terrible childhood, very traumatic experiences at a very early age. He abused by, his father. I think from what I had read, he didn't really have good words for his mother either. So just not much of a caring family home. He was bullied in school. And all these other things. So just not really a whole lot of good shit going on for him. So it doesn't really surprise me that what he does end up doing and some of the behaviors that we've already you guys have already touched upon that he is already starting to do and exhibit. Kind of not really surprised by it, honestly. It's really all he knows, So it's bad and it's terrible. And, he's not a good person, obviously, but it's all he knows. He doesn't know anything else, really. So, it's kind of like, what can you do, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what can you do? Now, yeah, and people sit there and argue. Well, I've known and read stories of plenty of successful people who went through things like that, and they didn't let that hold them down, and they rose above. Okay, first of all, shut up. Okay, because not everybody's the same. That's number one. Number two, okay, I can see somebody. I hate saying it, but I can see somebody in America overcoming something like that better than I can see somebody from Colombia or some other country overcoming something like that. Because here's the problem. As we graduate with him, and as he gets older, um, because unfortunately in this case he mainly and actually solely targets young boys. Now, what we're gonna do, before we get into that, what I want to do is let's go ahead and take a quick break, gather our thoughts, and then kind of jump into this because I want to get a little bit more into this because there's a lot in this next part. There's a lot there's going to be to unpack, to go into why, number one, he was going on for so long, because he really you know, man, we're just gonna take we're we're gonna take a quick break because, like I said, it's just there's a lot with this story, and yeah, I just want to make sure we take a nice little break. So we'll be back with more Birdman Show.
Doobie Energy Drinks is an energy drink that you can mix at home. It is specially formulated to give you focus and energy with no jitters or crash. The formulas contain vitamins, amino acids, and nootropics, including the patented neurofactor. It has no calories, no sugar, no fillers, and no artificial colors. So if you need something to give you the energy to take on the world, Doobie Energy is what you need. Go to doobie.gg. That's DUBBY.GG. Use promo code Birdman Show for 10% off of all your orders. And tell them the Birdman sent you.
If I'm being honest, when you look at me, it's like kissing a million angels. And every tattoo.
Hey everybody, how we doing? You're back. I'm back. They're back. It's the Birdman Show. We're still rocking and rolling. And in the background you're hearing tattoos by Renee Rapp. Yeah. So, gentlemen, we're talking about the Beast of Colombia. And in the first segment of this, we talked about basically his earlier childhood, some of the things he unfortunately experienced as a child, the abuse, and how it kind of slowly started to build up from there. Now in this first thing I want to do, one of the first things I want to do when we talk about this, and that's he starts at a very early age showing signs of being a serial killer. And for most people who don't know, there's actual 7 different stages of being a serial killer, or as you become a serial killer. I don't know if Ace, if you did any of the research on that. I mean, I did on that part. I actually did.
I thought about writing all 7 of them down, but I was like, you know what?
It's all good. I got you covered.
I had a long day, and I was like, I'm not going to listen to this whole podcast again, so I'll take it away.
It's all good. So, Big Sam, do you know anything about the 7 stages of serial killer?
I've heard about it. I couldn't recite all 7 to you, but I've heard about them. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Now I have heard about them originally, and this is back when I was in college though, because I was taking quite a few psychology classes because I was debating on if I wanted to stay with my communications degree or if I wanted to go into criminal psychology. So fortunately, I had to refresh my memory, and I'm definitely gonna read this crap because I'm not that I'm not that knowledgeable, but anyways, but there's 7 stages of a serial killer. Now, some of these names, you're gonna be like, when I say these names of the stages, you're like, wait, what? And I'm like, look, first of all, these were put together by a lot of criminal profilers, and this is just what they call them. So look, it's not me. I'm not just pulling names out of a hat. This is, I'm just reading it off. Okay, so just bear with me. Now this is off of cyberstruggle.org is where I'm pulling this information off of. So if you want to check it out, go check them out. They have a lot of great information when you talk about stuff like this. Now we'll talk about this when it comes to this dude. Okay, so in the first stage of a serial killer
Excuse me, sir.
called...
Can you use that in a sentence?
No.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Aura, not oral, aura, the aura phase. In the aura phase, the person begins, and now I'm gonna change a lot of the words in this, mainly because everybody always thinks well, serial killer are always men. Okay, and in the vast majority of history, yes, that is true, but there have been female serial killers. So I don't want to just put it all on me because I think we get blamed for enough. Anyways, in this stage, the person begins to put themselves, or puts distance between themselves and social relations. Okay, to a certain extent, they begin to drift away from reality. Sometimes this situation can go unnoticed by family and friends and continues for an unpredictable short or long time. So it may be something that just happens over a few weeks, or a few months. Sometimes it could be a couple of decades, because a lot of these serial killers, and that we've talked about in the past, and that we will continue to talk about, a lot of them are in their, some of them are usually in their 30s, sometimes 40s before they actually start really getting that way. You know what I'm saying? I'm what 45? Oh, anyways, I'm not saying anything. But what happens is they start to fantasize. They start having, they start fantasizing. They have thoughts that begin to gain weight. In most cases, these thoughts manifest themselves as violent sexual thoughts or violent fantasies. And again, in this person, the use of substances in this process may intensify, like the use of alcohol, some type of drug. A lot of that stuff will intensify in this fact. Now, at that point in time is basically where Ace had kind of alluded to at the beginning, when he talked about, he would line up his siblings, and he would, have them line up, in a line, and then he'd make them undress, and then he would gently, what he said, gently caress their private and sensitive areas. He would sometimes make them sleep completely naked in the bed with him, and then when they were asleep, when they fall asleep, he'd caress them then as well. So a lot of it starts coming up with stuff like that, and he starts getting into that mode and everything like that, and dude just, oh, Lord Jesus. Anyways, now phase two is called the trolling phase. Okay, not like you're on a different profile and you're putting up different posts and stuff like, not that. No, the trolling phase in this instance Okay, the trolling phase. This phase usually involves the process of forming an idea about the space of potential victims. Okay, so now you're starting to think about it. Now you really start, what does it look like? I mean, what it is. Usually serial killers go through this process of searching for victims where they know or feel comfortable. However, there is also a tendency to determine where they will commit the crime, maybe deal with the body. This quest could take days or even months until the right candidate is found. The killer in his searching or their searching may use certain patterns to track the victim. Now, this part is crazy. Now, Ace, we'll start with you on this one. When you listen to some of the stuff on the podcast, when you're hearing about some of the stuff that he was doing, when we're talking about the correlation of the phases, and like I said, I gave phase 1, which is the aura stage, and phase 2 was trolling. We'll get into phase 3 here in a second. What are some of your thoughts when it comes to that, and what else do you have to add to that?
I didn't put anything down on that, but I will add that whenever it comes to going through these phases of becoming a serial killer or identifying a serial killer, without question, he fit the pattern for every single one of those phases. He obviously had a black aura or a brown aura because he was a shitty person. There it is. I was like, I'd get a smile out of that. But
wow.
Can't see you. Yeah, I can't see you.
Like,
I can just see Sam.
Wow.
I know you'll be fixed whenever we
edit this. Like, wow, that's how we're gonna do though. That's what we're gonna do though. Huh? Gonna say the black aura? Like, no, bro.
It has nothing. It has nothing to do. I said black because he's a fucking asshole.
Anyway,
not because
continue.
of skin. It has that. Hey, this is not a black and white thing.
Wow, I don't know. You said it was black,
but then I went from black to brown. So
yeah, that didn't make no sense.
I'm not racist.
I just say I'm not saying you is black, however.
But anyway, I've already taken my nighttime medicines because my back is fucking killing me. So I'm going to turn it back over to you before because my filter is broke right now.
I see that.
So I've got notes. If you want me to read my notes, I can read my notes. Anything ad-libbed at this point is dangerous.
Oh Lord Jesus. Yeah. Okay, Big Sam, what you got? Help bring this fool back.
No, yeah, I mean, like with those first two stages, he's clearly like exhibiting kind of behaviors that you could associate with both of them, very early on. Especially like kind of like you said, with he kind of he starts with like his siblings who are all younger than him, so he's already kind of putting himself in kind of that little position of like power and whatnot, and I kind of feel like that also kind of helps with like his victimology a little bit. He's already going towards like younger people and whatnot, so he's right on line with what we're talking about with these stages already. So yeah.
Yeah, he definitely is. He most definitely is. Now let's get into stage 3 and stage 4. Like I said, for those who are just not joining, we just talked about we're talking about the 7 stages of a serial killer, like identifying serial killer and all that. We just talked about stage 1, or we talked about stage 1, which is the aura phase. Then you have the trolling phase, and now, and like I said, this also kind of goes back to what I said when I first started doing this part. I didn't name these phases, so don't be like, what? No, I didn't name them. I'm just reading the stuff off for crying out loud. All right, so phase 3 is the flirting stage or phase. It's not what I. It's not. I mean, once you talk about it and you start, read the definition, you kind of get to it. But I mean, I don't know if I want to name it the flirting phase. But anyways, in the flirting phase, the killer is focused on gaining the trust of their victim, which makes sense. Okay, when you start talking about that, because I mean, when you're dating somebody, you're trying to date somebody, or you want to date somebody, you're flirting. Okay, so you're trying to build that rapport. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to build that rapport, build that trust up, and then eventually go out. But they're trying to build the trust up with the victim. Typically, this phase is used by more daring, planned, and socially developed killers. So basically, you're talking about people who, I would say have higher IQs. I guess where maybe I want to put that. Maybe higher IQs, better socially. That can really, put this to use. The killer tries to socialize with the victim. Once trust is gained, the killer takes the victim to a quiet and previously planned area and takes action. Okay, now this with him really, plays out because as he got, like I said, we talked about, he started with, all of his victims are young boys, but he started going to the park. Okay, he would go to one of the parks, and he had a few different methods for how he was getting these young boys. And normally they were always walking alone. Now, let me back up before I say that to say this. When it started becoming an issue, it was always an issue, but when it started to come into question, is because there were several boys that end up, they were missing for a little while, and then they end up turning back up. But when they came back up, somebody asked them, they were saying they were playing hide and go seek. Well, the problem with that was these boys came back and they were missing their thumbs, like a thumb on one of their hands. They were missing a thumb on one of their hands. It's like, okay, first of all, you playing what hide and go seek are you playing? I know you're in Colombia, but fam, is it that rough? Maybe y'all need to pull your money together and go ahead and get your children an Xbox or a PlayStation. Let them play inside. If they losing thumbs playing hide and go seek. But I digress.
Chop seek.
Yeah, I get the hide and go seek. Like, hey, boom, cut your thumb off. I'm gonna hide it, go seek it. But so that's what was happening. It was that these kids were coming up, and they were scared. They weren't about to tell nobody what was going on. They were scared to death. And so what he was doing.
The thing of it is, though, Birdman, I don't think that it was all of them at one time.
No, it was over a span of time.
Took all 8 of them over a span of time.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to finish. I'll let you go ahead and finish it.
No, you're right. No, it was over a span of time. And that's what it was they said they were playing hide and go seek with somebody and blah, 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 but they weren't telling them who it was. And so this was going over on a span of time. Now, early on, because like he's basically in the flirting and about to get into the next phase, which is the capturing phase. But he's in the flirting stage of getting these boys, and this and that. And so in these stages, what's happening is in the first part is in this first part of his spree, he's going to end up going on. He captured over 200 kids He essayed him. He tortured him. He beat him. And in most cases, he kept him for at least a minimum of 12 hours. One of the boys, I'm not gonna go into his name, but one of the young men that he ended up capturing, and later talked to the police, but at first he didn't say. And I think it was the first one, wasn't it? He ended up not. I mean, he didn't really say anything. But what problem was, he said,
his name was Michael. He was his first.
Yeah. He kept him for 12 hours, and he said, at some point in time, he said it wasn't so much the fact that, he was, abusing him and he was beating on him and stuff like that. He said it was the fact that he was silent the whole time all this is going on. You know what I'm saying? Luis never said a word. And it wasn't until hours later when the boy got up enough courage to ask him, when are you going to let me go? And he said that was the first time he said something to him. He said, when the bells ring. Now, in this part of Colombia, and I want to say this was in Cali, Colombia. I want to say it was in Cali, Colombia, if I remember correctly. I'll double check that and get back to you on that. But in this part where we were located, it was by the church. Okay, so the church bells would ring every morning at 5 a.m. So at this point in time, he done already had this boy for 10 hours. So he still had, at least 2 more hours. And sure enough, as soon as the church bells rang at 5 a.m., he said, Luis loosened his grip, looked at the boy, and said, you may go. And this became a recurring theme with him for his first, like I said, 200 victims. Now, the reason why that number is important, because for his first 200, he let him go. It is said, and like I said, the reports vary. It's anywhere between 189 to 221 that he actually killed. So if it's at the higher end of him actually killing 221, you figure in those 200 that he let go, well over 400 victims.
That he confessed to killing.
Yes. Like I said, it at that point in time, like I said, and then when you get into that, even when you get into that, those numbers still fluctuate. The lowest number I saw was 189 that he confessed to. And then the highest I saw was 221. So it's once again, it's one of those things. It depends on what source you go to. But like I said, in these numbers, I'm going with the highest number of what, could possibly be. Because just to think about the fact that there's actually 400 plus victims, that, over 200 and some, are possibly, were killed. And then 200, then maybe a little over 200 some that were actually let go. So it's crazy. So like I said, this point in time, he's in the flirting stage. Now we're starting to get into, he's starting to do what they call stage or phase 4. I feel like we're talking about freaking Marvel. Now we're in phase 4, the capturing phase. Okay. Now in the capturing phase, as the name suggests, okay, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It is a phase in which the killer fully reveals his true intentions. The methods used in the capturing phase can again be selected in such a way that the killer can enjoy the action more. Now, in his stage in the capturing phase, I mean, he used anything. It was either he lured kids, away with candy. He'd be like, hey, you want to see these puppies? In some cases he would jump out of the bushes with a machete, say, you scream, I kill you. You know what I'm saying? He'd grab the kids and drag them away. You know what I'm saying? And so it just like it really kind of depended on what mood he was in, which is really disturbing to me. As in how he was really getting these kids and doing this stuff. Now, I'm gonna say this before somebody says anything. Listen, I know somebody's gonna be thinking it, and somebody might even say it in the group chat. I don't know yet. Somebody might be thinking this. Where are the parents? Why are they not going to the police? Why are they not reporting this? How are they just letting this happen to their children? I'm gonna tell you why. Number one, you're in Colombia, and there was two things that were going on in Colombia at that time. You had God bless it. I don't know. I forgot that man name that quick. God bless America. Not Castro. Was it Castro? Fidel Castro. Yeah. You had him.
No.
Yeah, I think
it was Pablo Escobar.
Pablo Escobar. Yeah, Pablo Escobar. Anyways, so you had him that was going on at that time, and there was said that he was making $2 billion a year in cocaine sales. Said, go ahead, unmute yourself, man. I can't. There's a delay, so I can't read the lips properly.
Tax free.
Yeah, tax free.
Tax billion. They were making. They were bringing in $300 million a day in the snow profit. I'm going to say the snow because I know the other word on the other podcast got bleeped. So $300 million a day profit on snow transport from Colombia to the U.S.
Yeah, it really was. They were like on Frozen. You know what I'm saying? It was letting it snow. You know what I'm saying? You know, he had Boys the Men in the background talking about "Let It Snow." But yeah. So yeah, I know. You haven't heard that song? It's a great song. It's a great Christmas song. I love that song. But
I thought
he's making
Chipmunks.
No. But yeah, he's $2 billion a year, tax free. Now, you might think, well, what's that got to do with these kids being? Well, because Pablo was a ruthless. He was deemed one of the most ruthless men alive at that time, because he did not care. Go ahead, what you got?
Now, wait. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Not
the
really.
reason why he's bringing up the cartel is because
one of them
they discovered something, and in order to try to figure out where the discovery originated from, they had to start chasing leads. Now, what did they discover, Tim, or Birdman?
Well, I appreciate what you did. I did not get ahead of myself. I was about to give that information and then go into the next part. No, but seriously. No, what they discovered was a mass grave. They discovered a mass grave. There were over, I want to say 30 bodies. And when I say bodies, I mean young boys. And they discovered
there was 36.
36, okay. Now, that in itself is pretty bad. But the problem was the police they were struggling trying to figure this out. And the reason why they were struggling trying to figure this out, because you have 36 graves. Okay, yes, they're young boys. Now, what you have to understand, during this time, organ trafficking was huge back then, especially in that time. It's still, I mean, it hasn't gone anywhere, but it was really huge back then. And so, kidneys, livers, hearts, lungs, I'm saying anything can be. And of course, if it's a young kid, that's even better because, they haven't been through all that stuff of alcohol or drugs or tobacco or any of that stuff. So their organs are healthier. So you had that part. Okay. But then of course, as they got to looking at the cuts, and they're really erratic. They're just not, they're all over the place. They know good and well that if with their dealings with the black market and dealing with organs, These people they're precise. They're they know that their customers are not going to want damaged goods. So these cuts are not making any sense. Then another thing that doesn't make any sense is that majority of the boys were missing their right foot. Their right foot was severed. So at first they were like, well, maybe it's somebody who's doing witchcraft or Satanism, something like that. Maybe it's that. But then they discovered that the right foot was still there. So they're really trying to figure this out. So that's when they jump to the cartels. Ace, do you remember what the other cartel was that was there that they were also thinking about?
It was Pablo Escobar, the cartel. I can't remember what the hell the name of it is. It started with an M. But then the other one was the Cali cartel.
That's the one I was thinking
Pablo Escobar was ruled out because of his vigilance in donating to help make the kids better. He donated money to kids funds and everything. So they're like, okay, he wouldn't do something like this if he's putting money out there to the kids. The Cali cartel, he could be a rogue agent, oh yeah, you get it. But the Cali cartel was ruled out because the Cali cartel, they did this thing. I don't know. Were you going to go into what their thing was?
No, go ahead.
Okay. The Cali cartel had this thing where they would cleanse the city. They would say, clean Cali, safe Cali.
Yeah.
And that motto basically stood for they would get rid of anybody that they thought was going to reduce the look, feel, profitability of the town. So they would snatch people, take them, kill them, and dump them in a river, which was like Death River or something like that. But the Cali cartel hardly ever did anything outside of Cali. And where the grave was found was not in Cali. So they ruled the Cali cartel out.
Correct.
Back to you, Birdman.
Big Sam, what are your thoughts on this stuff thus far, as far as your understanding of this case?
I mean, it's kind of your typical, I guess not typical, just kind of based on his behaviors and whatnot, but still going along with kind of the stages that we're talking about. He's still kind of just going right along with it, and just things are obviously starting to progress quite a bit, especially as he starts getting older and kind of coming into his own a little bit. As far as all the cartel stuff, man, I don't know anything about any of that. That's all you guys. I ain't got nothing there, but yeah.
Back to you, Bob. Yeah, it's like I said, like most people don't realize, when it comes to those cartels, there was, and I can't remember what was that movie. I want to say it was what was it? John Travolta. I want to say it was Samuel L. Jackson. Basic. The movie Basic, which I absolutely love that movie. I thought that movie was freaking phenomenal. And there was a part in that movie where I believe it was the soldier that they were holding as in suspected murder. And he, you know, he's leading them through all this whole thing, and then he gets to a part where they finally talk about the drugs. He says, "Oh yeah, and the drugs," and they're like, "Drugs? What drugs?" He was like, "Man, are you serious? We're in Colombia. Like you can't throw a stone 5 feet without hitting a cartel." You know, that's what's crazy about what was going on during those times. And, you know, yes, it was a part of the movie, but that was true. Like, you know, you just really couldn't go anywhere. So, like I said, a lot of the parents with their children that ended up coming up missing, no, they were not reported to the police, because in most cases the police were owned by the cartel. You know, and the thing is they had to think, okay, you know, if I go to the police and talk about my son missing, you know, if they are in the pocket of the cartel, then could I be putting my child in danger of their life? Because maybe there's a possibility they might release him. You know what I'm saying? Or if they don't release him, at least, you know, if he is working for the cartel, then at least maybe hopefully he's at least living. You know, maybe not the life I wanted, but at least he's alive. And so a lot of them didn't report it. And then if they, like, for the ones that came back, that came back early on, and you know, before he progressed to killing his victims, a lot of them didn't want the hassle of it, because you just didn't know who you could actually go to. And that's that to me, in a lot of this, that's one of the things that really, really, you know, hit me hard. It's like, you know, you have a child over there and your child isn't coming up missing. You pretty much have to carry on business as usual, because you don't know who you can go to. You can't go to the authorities because you don't know if they're in the pockets of the cartels. You know what I'm saying? You can't really go anybody.
Yeah,
so
pretty much
it's
just
almost
writing them off.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, well, they're here today. They're like, hey, where's little Johnny? Johnny is no longer with us. You know, it's like, oh man, I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't. I don't know. I couldn't do it. I'd be like Rambo. I'd go, nope, couldn't do it. Nope, couldn't do it. I'd pull a knife out. You know, they'd be like, hey, you know, start like, that's not a knife. That's a knife.
Wait. How can you do that? You can't Dundee Rambo.
I can. They both carry knives. Big knives.
So, well, if you say so.
Argue if you want to. It was almost damn near the same knife. Almost. I actually still have my Rambo knife. I actually have a Rambo knife that I got when I was in the military. And I actually still have that one. I love that knife. Got me through some tough times. Yeah. Now you can't do that too often, because that's a trigger for me. I'm just playing. Actually, I'm not playing. But anyways, here's what we're gonna do. Let's take another quick break. And we're gonna get into the 5th, 6th, and 7th phases of a serial killer. And then we're gonna dive more into and talk a little bit more about some of these victims, how he was captured, and give an update on what's going on with him today. Because a lot of people don't know, 2023, he was actually set to be released from prison. So we actually have an update on what's going on with that. Actually, I don't know if Ace has it, but I know I do. I don't know if you looked at it. I don't know if Big Sam looked at it, but I do have an update on what's going on with him and all that good stuff. So, like I said, we're going to take a real quick break, and we'll be right back with more of the Birdman Show. Hey, it's the Birdman here. I have a question for you. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? If so, have you heard about Spotify for Podcasters and why it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place? Well, allow me to explain. Spotify for Podcasters has the tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone, tablet, or computer. And when hosting on Spotify for Podcasters, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. It's really everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And the best part about it, it's totally free. So what the heck are you waiting for? Go to podcasters.spotify.com to get started. Just say a little birdie told you. Hey everybody, how we doing? We're back. It's the Birdman. We're listening to the Birdman show, and what you listen to in the background is The Last Knife Fighter. If you have not heard this man, you need to go check this dude out. This song is called Living Like I'm Dying Today. I'll let that play just for a few seconds. All right. I can't, because I can listen to that all day. I can listen all day long, but we're not going to do that. We're back with the Birdman show. I'm Birdman. I am still here with my boys, Ace and Big Sam. Big Sam, how you doing? You're not asleep over there, are you?
I'm good. I'm not. No, I ain't asleep. I'm wide awake, man. This is interesting stuff, my boy. I mean, it's fucking terrible.
Good,
but it's interesting stuff. So
horrible.
And y'all are throwing me some information that I hadn't seen, so I'm kind of learning along with everybody else a little bit too. So yeah, I'm doing good though, doing good.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. All right, cool. I keep looking at your screens, Big Sam, a lot because you got that cross that's on the wall back behind you. So I'm continuing looking at that while while we're doing the show. Like I'm. Yeah. But anyways, Ace, how you doing, man? You still holding up all right?
I was flipping it for you. I'm still hanging in. I'm still hanging in. I'm like last week whenever Sam was reading off his notes and everything. He was educating me on some stuff that I didn't fucking think about because I was like, it's dating. I can wing this. But then this week, I actually did some research and we're just trading notes. So, I mean, he told me, he learnt me on some stuff last week, so I figured I'd learn him on some stuff this week. So, yep,
hey,
doing good.
That's what we do, man. We support each other. We support each other. All right, so as we were talking before, we're getting into the 7 phases of a serial killer. Like I said, we talked about phase 1, which is the aura phase. Stage 2 is the trolling phase. Stage 3 is the flirting stage. Stage 4 is the capturing phase. So now we're going to get into phase 5, 6, and 7. Okay, so stage 5 is, where it starts getting down to the nitty gritty. It's called the murdering phase. Can anybody guess what that phase consists of? Nobody? Bueller? Okay. Anyways. Yeah. So Bueller. Yeah. So in this phase,
look at Carrie's answer.
Tickle. Really? Really? Tickle. A little tickle. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So in this phase, of course, murdering phase, it is what it is. At this point in time, the killer is actually performs a ritual in his own way. Sometimes it can be accompanied by prolonged torture or necrophilia, while sometimes leading to a sudden death. Torture before killing and post-mortem sexual intercourse is a common ritual, especially for sadistic killers. Oh, and let me add this part. Organized killers often adopt a longer period of torture and death. I wanted to say that because it goes along with this next part when it comes to our case. The killer can enjoy preceding torture and post-mortem intercourse more than the murder itself. Also, in this process, the killer can use different means of torture, such as electricity. Once the torture ritual is completed, the killer finally kills his victim. Now, the reason why that part, like I said, I wanted to make sure I included that part, is because this is basically what his MO becomes. When he graduates to phase 5 and he actually starts to take the lives of his victims, he tortures them. And I mean, he tortures them for, like I said, the minimum he kept any of his victims beforehand was 12 hours. He got to the point now, and it was said about him that he was a organized killer. And what that meant was in every aspect of his life, in every other aspect of his life, he was a very disorganized person. And the thing is, I want to point out, and I don't know if Ace had this or if Big Sam had seen this, but I'll say this and then I'll let you.
Disorganized organization.
Yeah. This part I'm about to say, I don't know if either one of them, I don't know if either one of them had researched this part, but as he got older, like he was, in all accounts, he wasn't, I guess you could say, a bad looking guy. He was a decent looking dude. But he also had suffered from alcoholism, like his father. But he would attend AA meetings. He was going to church. He worked at a local bakery. And it was to the point where the mothers of the community, the ones that had single daughters, they were going to the bakery to like buy extra loaves of bread, and then of course they would, say, "Oh, my daughter is single," and they were trying to hook him up, and all the while you're thinking like, "Hey, wait a minute, did they know who this dude is?" Of course they didn't know who he was or what he was doing. He was doing all this during this period of time, and they were trying to get their daughters with him, and this and that, and he was like, not at this time. I'm there's some things I'm working on, little did they know, but it was crazy how they were trying to hook their daughters up with this dude. Because yes, he was an alcoholic. Yes, he has a problem. Yes, occasionally he would yell at his bosses at his job, and occasionally he would punch them in the face if he got too mad. And I'm not exaggerating. These were reports. He would punch his bosses in the face if he got too upset about something. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, in that aspect, power to you, brother. I wish I could do that sometime. But anyways, but in that aspect, I mean, yeah, and they were like, yeah, okay, yeah, he does that, but at least he's working on himself. He goes to AA, he goes to church, you know what I'm saying? He goes to confession, he does all this. So he's actually not a bad guy. But it is crazy to think that. It's really crazy to think that. But in this stage, like I said, with the murdering stage, he's killing his victim, and he's torturing him. He's being very careful. Like I said, he was a disorganized, organized killer. He's very careful not to make any cuts or do any torture that's gonna take their lives quickly. He wants this to be a prolonged process. Ace, what else do you have to add on to this phase of his killing sprees?
Something that they was mentioned was he would buy a pack of cigarettes before he got his victims, and he would smoke the whole pack of cigarettes during the torture phase. Now they averaged this out, and if he got shorts, and it takes a minimum of 6 minutes to smoke a cigarette. 20 cigarettes in a pack, you're looking at 2 hours of cigarette breaks during the torture. So that gives you an idea of how long he was dragging this out. He would make the kids, he would put bags over their heads and make them walk in circles to wear them out so that they couldn't run. They couldn't fight him. That way he didn't have to worry about them getting away. Whenever it came to actually killing them, it was still a game, because he would make the incision and then most of the time let him bleed out. Hold on.
Got the purge going on over here? What's going on?
For those who don't know, the purge has just begun. The purge has just begun.
Oh boy.
I'm pretty sure that's probably his work or something. So while we're waiting on him, what do you got for us, Big Sam?
Well, so a lot of what I had seen, with kind of like what he does to his victims, was a lot of stuff that was done to him as a child. You know, with like the wax,
yes,
like getting cut by razors. You know, a lot of the stuff that he experienced with, you know, his own abuse as a child, is he carried it straight over to what he's doing to a lot of these kids. So it really was, you know, just like Ace alluded to really early on, it was a lot of like learned behavior, you know. And for someone who was described as like not being necessarily like very smart as a kid, this dude has to be one of the most intelligent killers ever. I mean, we're talking about, as far as we know, the most prolific serial killer in modern history throughout the world. Like, not just Colombia or, you know, in a certain country or whatever, like throughout the world. This is the most prolific serial killer that we have ever seen. So, you know, there's a lot of intelligence behind what he does. And so it's I don't know, it's not much of a surprise, I guess, that his victim count was so high, because you're seeing just an extreme amount of intelligence. And then obviously, you know, you couple that in with everything else that's going on in Colombia at the time, you know, with like the cartels and all that other stuff that's going on. Yeah, man, it's just kind of crazy. It's kind of like, it almost feels like the perfect kind of time and area for like someone to become like a killer like this, and he kind of executed it almost perfectly, I guess. So it's yeah, dude, this dude's kind of it's really hitting me, like just how crazy
that's one thing I was gonna say. Oh, my bad.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
But that's one thing I was gonna say. Like, I was wondering if anybody else was, you know, maybe feeling the same way about that, because he was doing it during a time where the cartels were so prominent in those areas. So the first thing that they thought about was, well, it's got to be the cartels. So you have to think about it. You know, how many, you know, what resources they had to use, and how long it took them to go down these leads to find out before they finally realized, okay, this is definitely not the cartels. You know, so there's that time that passes by. And then there was a point in time where they thought it was maybe somebody who was into witchcraft. So then you had to go down that whole path, down that rabbit hole. before, you're like, well, maybe it's not. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's just, I sometimes wonder that. I wonder that too. But anyways, Ace, continue what you were saying. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up.
Man, you
What was
already
Brittany's
know he
question?
scrolled and forgot, man. He doesn't remember what he was talking about.
Yeah, what was I saying? I'm already trying to answer Brittany's question.
Why wasn't this?
Where were we?
Why has this been more widely talked about?
Why hasn't this been more widely talked about?
And it's one thing we talked about earlier in the show. I mean, it's like it happened in a different country. And I think sometimes when it comes to media, especially the news outlets, they're not really trying to tell us everything that's going on. I mean, think about the stuff that's happening in Ukraine. We get told one thing, but then when you get the actual news and the affiliates that are actually over there on the ground, it's a completely different story than what's being told here in America. But Ace, go ahead if you want to answer that question and then get back to what you were saying.
My thoughts on that is, it probably wasn't very widely publicized, because who wants to let the world know that they had somebody in their country who SA'd over 200 people, and then after he got tired of doing that, he escalated and killed another 200 kids. I mean, that's not something I would want to publicize. Just my thinking. Okay, and Tim hit the fucking nail on the head. I squirreled as soon as I hit mute. What the fuck were we talking about? Or what was I talking about? Reel me back in. Now you're not even listening to me.
I threw the finger up like I'll be back. Ah, God, man.
You weren't on the screen.
I know it wasn't on screen. I said, yo, I'll be right back. I turned my mic down, went on, walked on out.
You can see me. That don't mean that I can see you.
I don't care.
But yeah, how's that? Telling me it's 7 o'clock? Oh, hell, it's 7:30 already. We still got 2 more phases to go through.
Yeah, don't worry, they'll go quick. Okay, so that's the murdering stage, okay, or murdering phase. Okay, so now we're going to the totem phase. Now this is phase 6, and like I said, we're getting to phase 7. Like I said, these next 2 phases are not really going to take that long. After murder and other actions in this phase, the killer experiences a huge decline. They could, it's kind of like they kind of wake up from their fantasy. In fact, these ups and downs are said to be the key driving force for killers to develop a ritual. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so at this point, this is when they start collecting the souvenirs. Okay, that's what it's called, the totem phase. This is when they start collecting the souvenirs, and that's why, earlier on when we were talking about it, how those kids came back. Some of those kids came back and they were missing a thumb. Then how we talked about in the mass grave, how some of the limbs were missing. Notably, the right foots were usually cut off, but they found most of them with the bodies. But they were missing a few. They might, and like I said, in the stage, they'll either might take clothing, a piece of the body, they might take photos, take videos, or take jewelry, all to use as memories for that event. Now, when it comes to this case, any other cases that you've heard about, Big Sam, what can you talk about when it comes to the totem phase? When it comes to this case, and it actually just in cases in general, when it comes to serial killers keeping souvenirs.
Yeah, so I mean, it's typically like a thing where they do kind of just want to relive the crime, kind of relive the experience, the murder, everything that happened. Um, as for taking body parts, man, I don't know. This is kind of weird to me. I guess that's kind of like the necrophilia type aspect, you know. That was
Yeah.
kind of mentioned with him in particular. I don't know why you can't just take like a earring or something like that. I feel like that would be a lot. I don't know, just better, I
Most of these
guess.
kids are like 5.
But
I mean,
man,
I
hey,
don't
you
know.
don't know.
I mean, yeah, I
You
get
don't
you.
know, man. Maybe they got like a bracelet or some shit on,
That's
man. I
true.
don't know. Okay,
Okay,
but I
okay, you're
mean,
right. You know what?
damn,
You're
cutting
right,
off a
brother.
whole
You're right.
foot. This dude got a dead foot fetish, man. I don't know. That just seems kind of weird
Well,
to me.
there is a reason for the right foot being cut off.
Why don't you get into that for us?
Do we want to get into that? Go ahead and get into that.
I mean, inquiring minds. I don't
He
know.
had messed up his right foot whenever he was in his 20s, and he walked with a limp. That's why he wants to have everything that everybody else has. Since he doesn't have a good right foot, he started chopping off the right foot of the kids that he murdered.
You know what?
And since we're
a lot of that
streamlined this,
yeah, and the thing is that a lot of this goes back to his childhood. The chopping off the right foot, like Ace just alluded to, and a lot of the reason, and one thing we didn't really tackle on that much on was the fact that he was bullied a lot, as a kid, even going to school. I mean, he wasn't that. It was not like he was a big kid or anything like that. And the funny thing about it, I don't want to say it's funny, but the crazy thing about it was that he would go to school after leaving home, being abused, all night, sometimes all day. He'll go to school wanting to bully other kids, and mainly because, like what Ace said when he talked about his foot, he wanted what they had. He sees kids that come to school, they're happy to go to school, and they're happy to go home to their loving families, and he wanted that, and he hated these kids because they had that, and he didn't, and he just carried from there. And then I know Big Sam has said that. He said that a lot of the abuse that he was doing was the exact same abuse. I mean, literally the exact same abuse that he had done to him. A lot of times in these cases, you hear people talk about, oh, they started killing people, or they started doing this because they were abused, but it was not the same as what they were going through. They came up with their own thing. No, he was doing literally the exact same things to his victims that were done to him at that age and pretty much throughout his life. So yeah, that's crazy about that. Now the last phase is the depression phase. Okay. In this final phase, the killer tends to decide his or her's next murder. Now, because the killer experiences a major emotional breakdown, this collapse can take days, weeks, and even months. And that's something that Sam, you and I had talked about when we talked about the Zodiac killer. Because there was a period of time where there wasn't any killing. And there was a period of time where he didn't take, the Zodiac killer didn't take credit for the killings. And we talked about that when it came to that. So, I mean, yeah, I can understand that now. But like I said, it can take even months. Sometimes the killer compares the way he committed the crime to the murders in television movies and feels dissatisfaction. Wow. I read this, but I didn't really read it. Like, wow. They're comparing their own real life murders to those on TV, and they feel dissatisfied. Yeah, okay. the depression phase is so intense that sometimes the killer can't even feel the strength to commit suicide. And this is the real thing. Like they, a lot of them, they say go through this phase to where they want to kill themselves, but they don't have the strength because they're so depressed about everything. They don't even have the strength to do it. But after a while, the killer returns to the fantasy world and starts the next murdering cycle. This motion always leads to the killer to become a more violent, more professional killer, and can then lead to them making improvements in their rituals. So it's almost like, and I hate saying it like this, but it's almost like they're going through a cocoon stage of like a butterfly does, where they go through this stage, and then they hit the depression stage where they draw themselves back in, and now they're wanting to kill themselves, or however they do or want to do it, and then they come out of it, and all of a sudden, now they're an improved killer. Big Sam, what are some of your thoughts on hearing that?
Well, just to answer Brittany's question really quick, I know some of what I had seen. They talked about he suffered from like psychosis, depression, paranoia, just kind of things along those lines. As for like the last phase that you talked about, and then this guy in particular, I know there was a lot of what I had read where he said that he did kind of express feelings of remorse for some of his victims, and then kind of like you had mentioned when we talked about the Zodiac and kind of like the time that he took off between some of his killings, which is called like the cooling off period. This guy really doesn't seem to have one. Like it feels like he kind of commits the act. He feels like some remorse, and he kind of like beats himself up over it a little bit or whatever. And then I feel like his psychosis and whatnot just kind of takes back over. And a lot of them, like their urge to, a lot of them being serial killers, their urge to kill is, it's, this was the only like metaphor I could think of. It's kind of like having the urge to go to the bathroom or something, like you have the urge to go, and so you do. And so that's what it is for a lot of these guys. They have an urge and they can't get it to go away, right? So it's just like having to go take it, to go pee. It's not going to go away until you do it. So
right.
This guy, he definitely had a lot of mental issues, and then with this phase in particular, there doesn't really feel like there's a whole lot of like cooling off, kind of between a lot of his crimes, so to speak. His urges, he couldn't really control them. It feels like, it's like there are some serial killers where they kill someone and 10 years go by before they kill somebody else, and this guy did not. His urges were, I think, a lot stronger than others, coupled with, especially the psychosis with like the devil and like his Ouija board, like all that stuff that we had mentioned earlier. So this guy, just kind of really off the rails with it, man.
Yeah,
back to you, Bob.
I mean, like you said, there wasn't, there wasn't any type of real break with this dude. And for me, when it comes to this guy, it's just like that's just pure evil, man. I mean, just what he did. And some people, you're always going to have those people that want to try to, You know, number one, they want to talk about preserve life no matter what it is. You know, somebody kills somebody, still should preserve their life. You know, this and that. Like I just, I don't know, man. Like I like I said, some people might say, well, you know, look at it how he was abused, and you know the things that happened to him, and I get it. I mean I get it. Like I said, I can sympathize with. I can empathize with that. But at the same time, to do that to that many children, and what really gets me is like no one, not no one. Like I mean I can imagine he was, you know, he probably had gotten pretty good at what he did, but in the park, he's just snatching up kids, like he walking through a field snatching up daisies and picking bouquets and stuff. Like he just, and no one, like that just, I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry. That gets to me, man. That just, oh man, that just, wow. That just, I don't know. That just really gets to me. Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So, Ace, talk to us a little bit about when they finally actually started piecing it together. It was him, and they started closing in on him, and when he was subsequently captured.
The moment that he messed up was apparently he decided to take a nap in between torturing one of his kids. He had kicked his shoes off and took his glasses off, and I guess he had just finished smoking a cigarette, and he flipped it on the ground, and he caught the cornfield on fire. The fire itself is what woke him up, and he hadn't finished torturing the boy, so he had to hurry up and finish the job, and then he took off running. He suffered second and third degree burns down his left side. Now, there was one detective there, I believe it was Detective Mark or something like that. He's the one that started putting all these clues and everything together. They had inevitably narrowed their suspects down to 1,000. So, with him leaving his shoes, that gave them a lot of evidence. The first thing the first piece of evidence that it gave them was it showed that he was wearing shoes that were a size too big to throw the investigators off because of the indentations in the shoes, in the sole itself. So they measured the shoe, or they measured the footprint, which gave them a generalized height. By looking at both shoes together, they could tell that on his right foot, he had a substantial, that he was putting substantial weight on it, which indicated that there was a limp because the foot was distorted on where the pressure was being distributed to. Now, with the glasses, the style of glasses that he was wearing, that was something that was in style like 15, 20 years prior to when this was going on. So by him leaving his glasses, they were able to assume that he held on to the style of glasses that he liked whenever he first got them and just carried over until current time, which means that it would be 15 to 20 years old. So they are looking for somebody who is anywhere from 35 to 45. They're looking for somebody who is about 5'4". They're looking for somebody who has a substantial limp on their right side. Now, put all of this into perspective. Their 1,000 people were all registered child abused, or children that were abused. So he was already in the system.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever they sat there and started inputting all of this information, it got them down to, it dropped the list from 25 or from 1,000 to 25. Then
That's correct.
They started checking all of these, and they arrested someone. They thought they had the Beast of Colombia until 12 more bodies showed up. Was it 12?
Yeah.
Something like that. It was like 12 more bodies showed up while he was in custody. So guess what? They had the wrong beast. They went back and they started pulling files again, and what ended up getting him caught was he had gone to his sister's and dropped off a bag and told her not to open it. The cops, he was on the list. The cops went to his sister's, asked about her brother. So, I mean, she didn't give any information because she didn't think that he was the killer.
Right.
And then she's like, well, he did drop this bag off. The cops opened it up. It was all of the newspaper clippings from every single murder. That's when they knew they had him. They take off, and they're driving down the road, and he's walking in the middle of the road. They pull up to him, get out of the car, walk up to him and ask him what his name is. I can't remember what name he said, but it was like a governor or something of the next town up. And they noticed the scarring on the left side that was starting to heal. And that is how Luis
Luis Alfredo
Garavito. That is how he got caught. After all of those murders, all of those assaults, he gets caught walking down the middle of the street. And the fucked up thing about it is he jumped from town to town to town. Whenever he felt like they were getting close to figuring out who he was, he would go to another town. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he kept him on the run. He would change his identity, his MO. I mean, anytime something started to fail on him, he would add that to his torture. Like, his eyes started going on him, so he would start gouging out the eyes of the kids. But wow, that is how he got caught.
You got anything to add to that, Big Sam, before I get into the update?
No, I don't have anything to add to that. That was
okay.
All new information for me, honestly. I hadn't gotten that far into my research.
It's all great, man. Hey, I'm telling you, man. Hey, that's what we're here for. Not only are we here to educate the people, we are also here to educate ourselves. Um, okay, so here's an update. All right, so I had mentioned earlier in the show that he was actually scheduled to be released from prison this year. But and I want to say it was reported as of October 13th, 2023 this year. He actually died in prison. I can't remember how long it was before he was supposed to be released. I think maybe December. I can't remember. It doesn't really say. But he actually, no, I'm sorry, not in October. It was reported in October, but he actually died in April, of this year. He died from leukemia and eye cancer. Like Asa just said, when his eyes started going bad on him, well, he ended up having eye cancer. The prison shared photos, images of the prisoner and his poor state of health, and that it was evident that he was really getting bad off. At that time, it was clear how the disease had affected his left eye, which was almost completely closed. So it had really gotten really bad. That's why I tell people, don't commit no crimes in no other country. They don't have the same type of health care in prisons as we do here. So you better not, do not. I ain't playing. Don't. Especially Singapore, forget it. Nope, forget it. You might as well just go ahead and just jump into the sea or something and just let a shark eat you. But yeah, it was crazy because they said the spread of terror of the terror in Colombia during the 1990s. And the thing is, I thought this honestly, when I was reading about this earlier, I thought this like spanned over like a couple of decades. But the real was like the bulk of the 90s. So basically, like early 90s up until I think it was 1999, when he was actually finally caught. Like Ace was just talking about. So he was caught in 1999. It said the criminal managed to go through 13 departments of the county for 7 years. And like I said, in 1999, he was captured just before he tried to rape a minor. So he was on his way to go rape a minor. Another one. This dude, oh my God, this dude's, and the crazy thing was he was sentenced in 2002. He was sentenced to 1,853 years and 9 days in prison. Yeah. But they reduced his
Fucking
sentence
Colombia.
But listen. But they reduced his sentence
Fucking
to only
Colombia.
40 years because the previous sentence was considered not viable. Like, it's not supposed to be. What are you talking about? It's not supposed to be. I mean, I guess they were saying, well, you should have just said life. You shouldn't put like an actual number on it. You should have just said life. Like what? What? That just don't make no sense. They
in the country of Colombia.
Yeah, they took it from 1,853 years, and
okay.
What got me was in 9 days. Like what? Like what the? What?
9 days.
Like to me, it was like there was two judges there, and one judge was like, "Okay, I'm sentencing you to 1,853 years," and the other guy was like, I'm not legit." And 9 days. So it's like, but yeah, that's just what. But then, like I said, for it to get reduced, because that's what I saw the number of the 1,800, 1,853. I saw that. I was like, man, that's crazy. How in the world is he getting out this year? And then I just when I read down a little bit further, it said it got reduced to 40 years, and I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. 40 years? Like really? I've seen people who've committed like one murder that got more time than that. It's like, what in the world?
The thing of it is,
don't go to Colombia. Don't go to Colombia either.
Yeah, in Colombia, the maximum sentence that they can give you is 40 years. So,
if you're trying to
whenever
go do some
you
stuff like
are
that, go to
being
Colombia.
tried for, whenever you're being tried for multiple offenses, they will only sentence you whatever the largest is. And with it being capital murder, they could only sentence him for 40 years. Now, with them sentencing him for 40 years, he did a work study while he was in prison, and they cut that sentence in half.
Work study.
That's why it was dropped to 20.
Work study. Oh my God, just this makes me sick. Bring back capital punishment. I just.
Yep.
Oh Lord Jesus. Anyways, it is what it is. Look, I'm over this case.
I don't think you finished it. Oh wait, yeah, you did. You did. You let everybody know that you passed.
Yeah, he died. He died in prison. No, you're good, brother. Yeah, he died in prison. So I mean, it is what it is. We don't have to. Well, we didn't have to worry about it. It's not like we were paying taxes for him. But yeah, that shouldn't be offered to murderers. No, you're right, Carrie. It shouldn't be offered. But you know what? There's that. I'm not going to get into that when it comes to the judicial system, whether it's this country or another country. Like I said, I tell people don't never commit a crime in a different country. You know what I'm saying? Like the whole thing. If people don't know about Brittany Griner, who went over to Russia. She's a famous WNBA basketball star. She went over to Russia. She was carrying some liquid marijuana on her. Ended up getting busted and spent, a considerable amount of time in prison over in Russia. And like some people argued, well, she's been going over there to play in Russia because she plays on a Russian team, national team over there, and she's been playing over there for like 7 years. And the thing is, she's been doing that. Everybody knows she's been taking that stuff over. But because all that stuff was going on with Russia and Ukraine, they use that as a political thing. They end up using her as a political pawn to get somebody that the U.S. had in custody that they wanted to release from U.S. back to Russia, and they had to work that deal out to get it done. But what I'm saying is, stop doing stupid stuff. If you want to do that stupid stuff in America where you're spoiled and you think that you can get away with everything, I suggest you keep your little spoiled self over here and do that crap over here. Don't take that I'm a Karen attitude over to some other country and think you're going to get away with that same stuff. They do not care that you're an American. Matter of fact, they love the fact you're an American because they would love to make an example out of you. So stop being stupid when it comes to stuff like that, people. For crying out loud. Jiminy Christmas. Just stay your butt over here. For any Karen out there, for any...
Don't be a Karen.
Yeah, or a Kevin. Well, I guess, is Kevin the equivalent to a Karen? Is that what we're doing? Is that, I don't know. I haven't heard too many of those. So don't be a Karen and don't be a Kevin. Yeah. You jerks. You jerks. All right, we're gonna wrap this show up. Big Sam, do you have any closing remarks for the people?
Terrible dude. Kind of a cool name, though, I'm not gonna lie. He kind of did have a really cool name. But a really bad dude.
It was there.
So it kind of sucks. I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of serial killers kind of get given dumb names. So it's kind of, I don't know. He had a cool name, but bad dude.
Yeah, I
still want my sugar
behind
mama.
the Beast of Colombia.
Still looking for that.
What's the requirements again?
Big booty. Looking like a horse, baby.
All right. Ace, what do you got? I know we're going to get you out of here so you can get ready for the TikTok.
My closing remarks are, be careful what you do whenever you're raising your kid, because it's obvious that behaviors can be learned, and whatever you do to your kid or whatever you allow to be done to your kid can haunt you, come back to bite you in the ass, can mold them into somebody that you don't want them to be. So make sure that what you're doing, yes, exactly, babe, nurture over nature. Make sure that whenever you are caring for your child, that you are aware of the surroundings that are affecting them on a daily basis.
That man just preached over there. Let me tell you something, sir. That's a whole nother subject we're not going to get into. Because I know one in particular person that needed to hear that. And I'm pretty sure that fool's not on here. But it is what it is. My closing comments are this. Don't forget, for those who didn't know, what we'll be doing tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Time is I'll be on TikTok Live on my profile, which is at the Birdman Show, I believe. We'll be doing a show recap of tonight's show, answering any other questions that people may have, just doing a little interacting. And then, like I said, if people have suggestions for shows that they may want us to do, whether it's the true crime, murder mystery stuff, or if it's like some of the classic stuff that we do, like with relationships, dealing with different things going on in life, whatever. We're going to be doing that tomorrow, like I said, on my TikTok at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. Once again, I'd like to give a shout out to Doobie, one of the sponsors for our show. Doobie Energy Drinks, phenomenal. I am loving this thing. And for real, when they say they have no crash, no jitters, I drank this stuff yesterday. I was feeling great all day. And didn't realize when I had actually came down from it. Like, I didn't have any jitters from it. I didn't crash from it. I actually slept pretty good for the first time in a long time. So this stuff is phenomenal. If you don't need that, you need to go check it out. Doobie, DUBBY.GG. At checkout, use promo code Birdman Show for 10% off. Everybody, I appreciate everybody was here. Ace, Big Sam, love you guys. Another great show. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate the live studio audience. For those going to be watching us later on our YouTube channel at Birdman Show Podcast 9643. For those who will be listening later on our Spotify channel, I thank you in advance and thank you for joining us on this episode of the Birdman Show.
I'm vanilla, baby. I'll choke you, but I ain't no killer, baby. She 28, telling me I'm still a baby. I get love in Detroit like Skillet, baby. And the thing about your boy is I don't